European Theatre, 1943 to 1945. Across the rolling hills of Normandy and the industrial ruins of Germany's Rhineland, American forces deployed a weapon system that fundamentally altered the arithmetic of artillery warfare. The M7 Priest, officially designated the 105 mm howitzer motor carriage M7, represented more than mechanical innovation. It embodied a revolution in how armies could deliver sustained firepower across fluid battlefields. While German military intelligence identified the weapon early in the Italian campaign, their tactical doctrine never fully adapted to counter a system that could displace, fire, and move again before counter-battery fire arrived. The German army of 1943 had spent 4 years perfecting the coordination of artillery and armor that had crushed Poland, France, and nearly destroyed the Soviet Union. Wehrmacht doctrine centered on the concentrated application of firepower, massed artillery barrages, followed by coordinated tank infantry assaults. This philosophy assumed artillery remained static, requiring elaborate positioning and extensive preparation time. German counter-battery procedures relied on sound ranging, flash detection, and aerial observation to locate enemy guns, then overwhelming them with precisely targeted fire. The M7 Priest invalidated every assumption underlying this system. American industrial capacity produced 4,267 M7 Priests between April 1942 and February 1945, with peak production reaching 150 vehicles per month at the American Locomotive Company in Schenectady, New York. The weapon combined the proven M2A1 105 mm howitzer with the reliable M3 Lee tank chassis, creating a self-propelled artillery piece capable of 25 miles per hour road speed and 15 miles per hour cross-country mobility. More critically, the M7 could fire its first round within 60 seconds of stopping and be moving again within 30 seconds of firing its last shell. The chassis selection proved crucial to the weapon's success. The M3 Lee tank, while obsolescent as a main battle tank by 1943, provided an ideal artillery platform. Its spacious interior accommodated the 105 mm howitzer's breech mechanism, and a crew of 7 commander, driver, gunner, assistant gunner, loader and 2 ammunition handlers. The vehicle carried 69 rounds of 105 mm ammunition internally, with additional supplies following in dedicated M30 cargo carriers, based on the same M3 chassis. The Continental R975 radial aircraft engine, originally developed for the Wright R1820 Cyclone, delivered 400 horsepower through a synchromesh transmission providing 5 forward speeds and 1 reverse. This power plant, designed for reliability over performance, proved exceptionally durable in European conditions. Maintenance records show 90% operational readiness rates throughout the Northwest European campaign, significantly higher than comparable German self-propelled artillery. The 105 mm M2A1 howitzer itself traced its lineage to French artillery designs perfected during World War I, but American metallurgy and manufacturing precision transformed the basic concept. The weapon could fire high explosive, smoke, white phosphorus, and illuminating shells to a maximum range of 12,200 yards with standard charges. The M1 high explosive shell, weighing 33 pounds with a 4.8 pound bursting charge, delivered devastating effects against personnel, light fortifications and vehicles. German artillery doctrine in 1943 emphasized precision over volume, reflecting both tactical philosophy and resource constraints. Wehrmacht howitzers typically operated from prepared positions, with elaborate survey procedures ensuring accurate firing data. German artillery units expected to remain in position for hours or days, delivering precisely targeted fires on predetermined coordinates. Counter-battery fire represented the primary threat, countered through camouflage, dispersion, and rapid displacement after extended firing missions. The M7 Priest operated under fundamentally different assumptions. American fire direction centers, equipped with advanced communications and calculation equipment, could mass fires from multiple battalions within minutes. The self-propelled nature of the M7 meant entire artillery battalions could displace simultaneously, maintaining continuous fire support during fluid operations. This capability proved decisive during the breakout from Normandy and the subsequent pursuit across France. The Sicily campaign of July-August 1943 marked the M7 Priest's combat debut in American service. The 1st Armored Division deployed 54 M7s organized in 3 battalions of 18 vehicles each. These units supported the drive on Palermo and the advance toward Messina, though the mountainous terrain limited opportunities for the system's mobility advantages. German defenders, primarily elements of the Hermann Göring Panzer Division and Italian coastal artillery, encountered American self-propelled artillery for the first time. German after-action reports from Sicily noted the rapidity of American artillery response and the difficulty of conducting effective counter-battery fire. Lieutenant Colonel Werner von Klinkostrom of the Hermann Göring Division reported that American artillery batteries seemed to vanish after delivering fire missions, making retaliation nearly impossible. These initial encounters should have warned German artillery specialists about the changing nature of battlefield firepower, but institutional inertia prevented adequate tactical adaptation. The Italian Peninsula Campaign provided ideal terrain for demonstrating M7 capabilities. The mountainous geography channeled operations into narrow valleys, where traditional artillery positioning became predictable and vulnerable. German defenders, organized in successive defensive lines across the peninsula, relied heavily on pre-registered artillery fires to break up Allied attacks. The Winter Line, Gustav Line, and Gothic Line all featured elaborate artillery positions coordinated with defensive strongpoints. American M7 battalions operating in Italy developed tactics that maximized their mobility advantage. Standard procedure called for rapid movement to firing positions, delivery of predetermined fire missions, then immediate displacement to alternate positions. This shoot-and-scoot technique prevented German counter-battery fire, while maintaining continuous support for advancing infantry. The 34th Infantry Division's artillery, equipped primarily with M7s, perfected these techniques during the bloody battles for Monte Cassino. The Battle of Anzio, January-June 1944, demonstrated both the capabilities and limitations of self-propelled artillery in constrained terrain. The beachhead's restricted area negated mobility advantages while concentrating Allied artillery within range of German guns. M7 units suffered significant losses during the initial German counterattacks, with the 45th Infantry Division's artillery losing 23 vehicles to counter-battery fire in the first week. However, the surviving M7s proved crucial during the final breakout in May 1944, their mobility allowing rapid exploitation of the German withdrawal. German artillery doctrine evolved slowly in response to these encounters. Field Manual HDV 469 halves, revised in December 1943, acknowledged the threat from Allied self-propelled artillery, but offered only conventional solutions, improved sound ranging, faster counter-battery procedures, and enhanced camouflage techniques. German artillery units never developed the sophisticated fire direction systems necessary to compete with American response times. The fundamental problem facing German artillery was industrial rather than tactical. By 1943, German factories could barely maintain production of conventional towed artillery, let alone develop competing self-propelled systems. The SID KF-ZEV 124 Westby, mounting a 105 mm howitzer on a Panzer II chassis, represented Germany's closest equivalent to the M7 Priest, but only 682 were produced compared to over 4,000 American vehicles. Resource allocation reflected strategic priorities. German industry focused on producing tanks and anti-tank guns to counter Soviet armored offensives on the Eastern Front. Self-propelled artillery received lower priority despite proven American advantages. This decision proved costly during the mobile campaigns following the Normandy invasion, when German artillery units repeatedly found themselves unable to support withdrawing infantry. The D-Day landings of June 6, 1944, marked the beginning of the M7 Priest's most significant contribution to Allied victory. The V Corps and V Corps each landed with 3 battalions of M7s, totaling 108 vehicles in the initial assault. These units provided crucial fire support during the fight for the beachheads, their ability to fire from landing craft and immediately move inland, proving invaluable during the critical first hours. German coastal defenses along the Atlantic Wall had prepared for conventional naval bombardment and massed artillery fires from static positions. The rapid appearance of mobile artillery units, disrupting German counterattacks, came as a complete surprise. Oberst Fritz Siegelmann, of the 352nd Infantry Division, reported that American artillery response times averaged less than 3 minutes from call for fire to rounds impacting, far faster than German doctrine considered possible. The Normandy bocage country presented unique challenges for all armored vehicles, but M7 crews adapted quickly to the terrain. The hedgerow fighting of June-July 1944 required close cooperation between artillery and infantry, with M7s providing direct fire support at ranges often measured in hundreds rather than thousands of yards. The 2nd Armored Division's artillery pioneered techniques for breaching hedgerows with concentrated 105 mm fire, creating gaps for tank infantry teams to exploit. German defenders in Normandy struggled to counter American artillery tactics. The 12th SS Panzer Division, defending between Kant and Bayeux, reported constant harassment from artillery fires that seemed to follow German movements across the battlefield. Traditional counter-battery techniques proved ineffective against targets that fired briefly then disappeared. German artillery units, still largely horse-drawn and dependent on fixed positions, could not match American mobility and responsiveness. The breakthrough at Saint-Lô, on July 25, 1944, showcased M7 capabilities during offensive operations. Operation Cobra began with massive aerial bombardment, followed by concentrated artillery preparation from over 300 guns, including 96 M7s from 3 armored divisions. The self-propelled artillery advanced immediately behind the leading tank units, providing continuous fire support during the exploitation phase that shattered German defensive lines. German resistance collapsed partly because their artillery could not maintain coherent fire support during the retreat. Horse-drawn batteries required hours to displace, often arriving at new positions after the front had moved beyond their range. M7 battalions, conversely, maintained continuous contact with supported units while displacing, never allowing German defenders time to reorganize effective resistance. The pursuit across France, during August 1944, demonstrated M7 advantages during rapid advances. Third Army's advance toward the Seine River covered over 400 miles in 3 weeks, with M7 battalions maintaining fire support throughout the movement. German artillery units, dependent on elaborate logistical trains and fixed communications, could not match this pace. Many German batteries were overrun while attempting to displace, their equipment captured intact. Fuel consumption emerged as the primary limitation on M7 operations during the pursuit. Each vehicle consumed approximately 150 gallons of gasoline per 100 miles, requiring constant resupply from already strained logistics networks. The fuel crisis that halted Patton's advance in September 1944 affected artillery units as severely as tank formations, temporarily negating mobility advantages that had proven so decisive. The Ardennes offensive of December 1944 provided German forces their final opportunity to counter American artillery advantages. German planning assumed that poor weather would negate Allied air superiority, while terrain constraints would limit tank operations. However, M7 batteries proved crucial in containing German advances, their mobility allowing rapid reinforcement of threatened sectors. The defense of Bastogne illustrated M7 capabilities under adverse conditions. The 101st Airborne Division's attached artillery, consisting of 3 M7 battalions, provided fire support throughout the siege despite severe ammunition shortages. German artillery, operating from static positions around the perimeter, could never achieve the concentrated fires necessary to overwhelm American defenses. When the siege lifted on December 26, advancing M7s immediately resumed offensive fire missions supporting the counterattack toward Hauffalize. German artillery performance during the Battle of the Bulge revealed the cumulative effects of 3 years of attrition and inadequate modernization. Many German batteries still employed World War I vintage communications and fire direction procedures, resulting in response times measuring in hours rather than minutes. American artillery, coordinated through sophisticated fire direction centers and delivered by mobile platforms, consistently outperformed German systems despite local numerical advantages. The crossing of the Rhine River, in March 1945, marked the final phase of M7 operations in Europe. American artillery units had evolved sophisticated techniques for river crossing operations, with M7s providing continuous fire support from the west bank, while assault elements secured bridgeheads. The 9th Armored Division's surprise capture of the Ludendorff Bridge at Remagen succeeded partly because supporting M7 battalions could immediately engage German artillery positions threatening the structure. German artillery doctrine never adapted to counter American self-propelled systems. Training manuals through war's end emphasized conventional counter-battery techniques, appropriate for static warfare. German artillery units continued operating from prepared positions with elaborate camouflage and protection, making them vulnerable to rapid displacement tactics that characterized American operations. The industrial dimensions of artillery warfare favored American production throughout the conflict. German factories produced approximately 23,000 artillery pieces of all calibers between 1939 and 1945. While American industry delivered over 250,000 artillery weapons, including 4,267 M7 priests. This quantitative advantage, combined with superior tactics and training, ensured American artillery dominance during the war's final 2 years. Ammunition production statistics reveal similar disparities. American factories delivered over 70 million rounds of 105 mm ammunition during the war, ensuring adequate supplies for intensive operations. German 105 mm production, hampered by material shortages and bombing, never exceeded 15 million rounds annually. M7 crews rarely faced ammunition shortages, while German artillery units increasingly operated under severe supply constraints. The effectiveness of American artillery doctrine extended beyond individual weapons to encompass entire fire support systems. M7 priests represented one component of integrated fire support, including forward observers, fire direction centers, communications networks, and ammunition supply systems. German artillery retained traditional organization, emphasizing unit autonomy rather than coordinated fires, reducing overall effectiveness despite individual weapon quality. Post-war German assessments acknowledged American artillery superiority, but attributed it primarily to material advantages rather than tactical innovation. General Heinz Guderian's memoirs dismiss American tactical abilities while praising their industrial capacity. This analysis missed the fundamental revolution in artillery employment that weapons like the M7 Priest represented, focusing on equipment rather than doctrine. Soviet evaluation of American self-propelled artillery proved more perceptive. Red Army observers noted that mobility and rapid response times provided decisive advantages during offensive operations. Soviet designers incorporated these lessons into post-war artillery development, producing systems like the Katyusha multiple rocket launcher that emphasized mobility over accuracy. The M7 Priest's combat record extended beyond European operations to include service in the Pacific Theater, where different terrain and tactical conditions tested the weapon's versatility. Marine and Army units deployed M77 during campaigns in the Philippines, where their ability to provide close fire support proved valuable in jungle warfare. However, the weapon's true impact remained in Europe, where mobility advantages could be fully exploited. Technical reliability emerged as a crucial factor in M7 effectiveness. Maintenance records show operational readiness rates consistently above 85% throughout European operations, significantly higher than comparable German self-propelled weapons. The Continental Radial Engine, designed for aircraft use, proved exceptionally durable in ground applications despite concerns about complexity and fuel consumption. Crew training contributed significantly to M7's success. American artillery training emphasized rapid deployment, accurate firing, and immediate displacement. Fort Sill, Oklahoma, developed specialized courses for self-propelled artillery crews, teaching techniques that maximized mobility advantages. German artillery training, conversely, remained focused on traditional methods appropriate for static warfare. The psychological impact of rapid, accurate artillery response affected German morale throughout the campaign. Wehrmacht after-action reports consistently noted the demoralizing effect of American artillery fires that seemed to follow German movements across the battlefield. Traditional countermeasures proved ineffective against systems that could fire and move before retaliation arrived. Combat effectiveness studies conducted immediately after the war confirmed M7 advantages over conventional artillery systems. Self-propelled battalions averaged 40% higher rates of fire during offensive operations compared to towed equivalents, while suffering 60% fewer losses to counter battery fire. These statistics validated pre-war American investment in mobile artillery systems despite higher initial costs. The M7 Priest represented more than successful weapon design. It embodied fundamental changes in warfare that German military thinking never fully comprehended. The integration of mobility, firepower, and communications that characterized American artillery doctrine pointed toward post-war developments in combined arms operations. German emphasis on individual weapon performance, rather than system integration, left them increasingly disadvantaged as the war progressed. Logistical considerations ultimately determined artillery effectiveness more than tactical employment. American supply systems, designed around motorized transport and standardized equipment, could sustain intensive operations that German horse-drawn logistics could not match. M7 units consumed enormous quantities of fuel and ammunition, but never faced the supply crises that crippled German artillery throughout the war's final year. The strategic implications of American artillery superiority extended beyond immediate battlefield effects. German commanders increasingly adopted defensive postures partly because their artillery could not support offensive operations against American fire superiority. This constraint limited German strategic options and contributed to the defensive mentality that characterized Wehrmacht operations after 1943. Innovation in artillery tactics continued throughout the war as American crews developed new techniques for employing M7 systems. Forward observer procedures, fire direction methods, and coordination with air support all evolved to maximize the weapon's potential. German artillery doctrine, constrained by institutional conservatism and resource limitations, showed little comparable adaptation. The M7 Priest's legacy influenced post-war military development, as armies worldwide recognized the advantages of mobile artillery systems. The lessons learned during World War II shaped Cold War military doctrine, with both NATO and Warsaw Pact forces emphasizing self-propelled artillery in their organizational structures. German military professionals, studying American methods during the post-war period, acknowledged tactical innovations they had failed to counter during the conflict. The weapon that German intelligence identified but never effectively countered represented a revolution in artillery warfare that extended far beyond mechanical innovation. The M7 Priest embodied American approaches to military problem-solving that emphasized industrial capacity, technological integration, and doctrinal flexibility. German military culture, rooted in traditional concepts of tactical excellence and individual initiative, proved inadequate for countering systematic American advantages in firepower, mobility, and logistics. The result was not merely tactical defeat, but fundamental obsolescence of military thinking that had dominated European warfare for generations.